Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Perpetual here. If you're new, you're warmly welcome. And thank you so much for joining me today as I meal prep the whole day. Guys, come along and let's get started. This meal prep legit took me about 8 hours to finish it all, and I did not even film all of it. I wasn't actually planning on filming it, but when I started, I was like, you know what? I might as well. So, first things first, I like to cook in a systematic way. So, I start with, in this case, my contemporary stew will be the first. So I prep my ingredients for the first thing that I am cooking. So I like to prep my ingredients. I've sliced my onions, chopped my tomatoes. I'm blending my pepper right now. And then I'm going to get my stew started. So I have my oil and my onions, and I will also be adding a bit of momone. While that goes on, I have my contemporary, or if you're using spinach, you would have your spinach going on another pot. So once I'm waiting for the onions to caramelize and the momone or fermented fish to get nice and fragrant, I'm gonna go ahead and get started on the fish that I will be using for the stew. So guys, I am splitting the fish because I'm making contemporary now, but I'll also be making okro stew later on, and I'll be using some of the tuna that I have here. So I'm slicing some up for my contemporary, and then I'm setting some aside as well. So one thing with meal prep, in order to make it as effective as possible, is to really multitask. So as soon as I was done with my fish, I've gone ahead and added my pepper into my onion and palm oil base, and I'm going to let that simmer for a few minutes, and then I'm going to go in with my tomatoes and let that cook as well. So as that is going on, I'm going to give my contemporary a quick stir. Now guys, if you are using spinach, if you're using baby spinach, you actually don't even need to pre-cook it. You can steam it just a little bit, but with contemporary, you do need to give it a few minutes with a little bit of water so that it steams down and cooks a lot better and faster. All right, gonna check back on the stew yet again. And I am gonna go ahead and add my smoked fish. So today I am using some smoked mackerel as well as some smoked tuna. So those two are gonna go in at the moment. I'm going to stir it and give it a few more minutes. Guys, of course, I'd love to hear from you. Do you meal plan? Do you meal prep? And what are the challenges that you face when it comes to these two? Maybe we can find solutions together. All right, so now that the stew is cooking away, I'm going to start slicing some onions for my next meal. And as you can see in the back there, I have my melon seeds, or egusi, or however, or akatwa actually is another name for it. I have that soaking in water so that it blends a lot easier. And so I'm going to get that into the blender, and I will be adding a little bit of salt, and that allows it to curdle so that you get that egg-like texture that you want in your contemporary. Now guys, I know a lot of people say that meal planning and meal prepping takes a lot of work, but even though this takes quite a number of hours for me to complete, once I am done with this, my week is gonna run so much easier. And one thing that I love about cooking for my family is the fact that then I know exactly what we're eating. I know the exact ingredients that have gone into the meals. And just doing it once makes it a lot easier, at least for me, because, well, when I need to feed the family, I am usually just preparing a quick side to go with it. So for my contemporary, for example, we can have it with yam, we can have it with plantain, we can have it with rice. So that's 3 meals right there for the one stew that I have prepared. Now, in my other pot, I have a lot of goat meat. I am going to be making goat meat stew And like I mentioned earlier, I will be making some okro stew as well, and I'll be using some of the goat meat as well. So what I like to do to make it a little bit faster, I'm cooking quite a large batch of the goat meat, and then when I am done, like when it's done steaming, I'm gonna go ahead and divide it into two and use one portion for my goat meat stew and use the other for my okra stew. So for my weekly schedule, what is working right now is that I meal plan on Fridays and I meal prep on Saturdays. I tend to stick to the Fridays for the following week just because then it allows me to get a better idea of what our week will look like. So typically I'll ask my husband what he'd like to eat. Half the time the answer is anything. So I use my own discretion, and I also like to look at what we have in the fridge so that we can use that up first. So a classic example, if we have leftover tomato stew, you best believe we're having jollof that week. This is just one of the ways that I, one, like to save money, and two, make sure that we waste as little food as possible. And that's another thing that I forgot to mention. So for us, even though we meal plan and meal prep, I am not strict when it comes to our meal planning and meal prepping. So even though I'm making a number of meals, I am not like, we need to eat kontomire on Monday and we need to eat okro on Tuesday. No, for me, it is just for us to be able to have options so that whatever we pick on that particular day, at least there's a little bit of that work done for me. So as you can tell, our kontomire is done and I am putting it into two separate bowls. So I have a bigger bowl, which will be great for me to divide just into two. And then I am leaving a smaller portion that I'll be getting into a smaller bowl just to allow us to have that another day where maybe one of us is not available or the kids are not eating that same meal. So again, just portion it however it suits your family needs. Anyway, now that our kontomire is done, I am getting started on my okro. So I have added some palm oil into another pot and I have a lot of onions because I love onions in my okro stew. And I have also added some momone or fermented fish. Guys, even if you do not love the taste of momone, add a little bit. You can even remove it if you'd like. It really enhances the flavor and you do not really taste it. And after a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and add my blended ginger, garlic, and onion mix to my base. And I'll allow that to cook for a few minutes. And one thing, most of the time when I make okra stew, I actually do not add any tomatoes to it because I find that it cuts the slime, and I definitely appreciate that slime or the draw. So I eliminate all tomatoes. And another tip is I always use a silicone or a wooden spoon because the metal spoon can also cut that draw or that slime. So I've switched my okra stew to a smaller element that I have, and I'm using the larger one to fry my goat meat, the goat meat that I'll be using for the stew. Guys, again, you've got to multitask in order to make this as fast and as effective as possible. So at this point, I'm giving my okra the base of the okra stew a quick mix, and I've gone ahead to add in my steamed or boiled goat meat. The goat meat was seasoned with ginger, garlic, onion, and a little bit of my all-purpose seasoning mix. And I have also gone ahead to add my smoked salmon or mackerel and my smoked tuna. Now, part of my classic okra stew combination also includes some wele that I have cleaned nicely, and I'm adding a few of that to my stew, and I will also be adding some crab. And of course, you're free to add a little bit of the goat stock that you got from steaming your goat meat. You can add a bit of that to add to the flavor of your stew as well. Alright, my loves, before we keep going, if you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please be sure to hit on that subscribe button right away. And also, please remember to tell a friend about my amazing channel. And please share this video and let us grow this amazing family together. And for all you guys who have been here for a while, thank you so much for your support so far. I truly appreciate it. So after checking on my okra stew base, I also need to check on my goat meat that is frying in the back. I like to fry my goat meat until it is a dark golden brown when I'm using it for stew, just because it softens up a little bit when you put it into the stew. So I am adding my okra mix at this point to my okra stew. So when I'm making okra stew, it is a combination of okra or okra, depending on where you're from. And I also like to add some garden eggs. And I also like to add some buma, which I believe is eggplant leaves. Alright, now I'm just getting started on my goat meat stew with some pepper and ginger, garlic, onion mixed into the oil. And I am also boiling some garden eggs on the side that I will be using for chicken soup later. And after a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and add my blended tomatoes and tomato paste into my stew base. And I'm going to give it a quick stir, lower the heat, and allow it to do its thing. I've blended a little bit more tomatoes and I'm adding that to the stew. Now, of course, how smooth you blend it will just be a personal preference. And I am also adding my leftover goat meat stock from when I boiled my goat meat. I'm adding that, and like I did earlier, I have switched my stew to my smaller element because it needs lower heat to cook anyway, and then I can use my biggest one to get started on my chicken soup. So doing the switches just allows me to cook a lot faster because the stove that I have is a 4-element one, and it is quite small because my kitchen is a little small. Well, actually, my kitchen is small, period. But of course, it is relative. I think a small kitchen in Ghana is actually a decent sized kitchen in Canada and US. But hey, you gotta enjoy the space, and I cannot wait to have a bigger kitchen. I have like a countdown going on. Anyway, back to my soup. I have added my onion, ginger, and garlic mix to the base of my soup, and I am also checking on my goat meat stew as I go along, and I have just added a little bit of seasoning cube. Actually, I used 1 tablet into the stew just to enhance flavors, and I am going ahead to add a little bit of curry powder as well. Guys, I have detailed recipes for all of these meals that I'm making today, so I will leave a link in the description box below. Guys, because I mentioned how small my kitchen is and my need for a bigger kitchen, let me go on a little rant about the cost of kitchens in this country. Why is it so expensive? Oh my goodness. So far, we have one company that we will most likely be going with, but of course, if you have any other suggestions, please do let me know in the comment section or send me a DM on Instagram. Sharing is caring, but I also want, yes, I want the good price, but I also want really good quality and excellent customer service. I know, I want it all. I am that classic example of bougie on a budget. I like to save money, but I also like really nice things. And guys, before I forget, if you do not have time to spend hours and hours cooking like I have, guys, I have found a solution for you with my meal prep service. Guys, at PreppedGH on Instagram. So Prepped is a meal prep service by yours truly, Perpetual Esiama. Your girl will hook you up with delicious home-cooked meals, freezer-friendly, portioned, customized just the way you like it. And guys, you do not have to go through all of this work. I take all of that work and I do it for you. So guys, back to what we have cooking. Our stew is almost done. I have adjusted the salt. I have added my goat meat. I added a little bit of rosemary. leaving it to simmer for a few more minutes, and then it will be nice and ready to be portioned as well. So guys, the chicken soup is also ready to be portioned. So I usually use, well, at least in this case, I used 2 full layer chickens. That's the hard ones. So what I do is I like to portion it out into about 4 portions because we're just a family of 4. And my kids barely eat any chicken anyway. So I portion it out just so that when I go to freeze it, it is nicely portioned. And when we're ready to eat, I don't have to thaw a big bowl of chicken and then put it back into the freezer. So that's why I like to portion it out into a little bit of everything, really. So that, again, it's just easier as the week progresses. And my loves, our meal prep for the week is done. I hope this video was motivating enough to get you into your kitchen to meal plan and meal prep for you and yours. And guys, as usual, if you liked this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. And remember to tell a friend about my amazing channel. And I will see y'all again very soon. Thank y'all so much for coming along with me on this delicious journey. I'll see y'all again very soon. Take care, guys. Bye.